I know, yeah.
Well, I'm going to start the recording for anybody who is out. I'm going to take things in a little different order since Fred isn't here yet, but he will be here later, right?
Yeah, he's kind of off to the side munching, so. So we can't talk about him. We can't talk about him because he's right over here. But.
Be careful. I can
not only burning ears, but yeah, everything else. Okay, we're gonna take things in a little bit of a different order today, just because of some things that I found in the last week. But that's okay. Está bien. Okay. I want to share with you just to see if you have questions before we start. Oh, hang on. No can do yet. Momentito. One of the things I had asked you to do was to just do an active listening where you listen to these two folks and just kind of did hash marks, checking how many times did I hear past, and hear that transition from present to past. Because a lot of times we say, well, I moved here in 2007 and I've been working in my company for 5 years now. So, stuff like that. So I just want to see if you had any questions about doing that. Was that a hard thing to do, an easy thing to do? Did it help? Did it not help?
Fred over here, mouthful of food, said 2 thumbs up. It was really, really good because, and I agree, because you have to pay attention. I know the word hacia, it's sort of like, oh, okay, what conjugation is that? But that's not how it was
already
used.
2 sentences beyond before I figure it out.
That is 2 sentences before I figured it out. That's pretty normal. So, I don't know if I had shown you the video on this, but they kind of said there's a video on how to listen.
Well, and what really worked especially well is not only did I have the 3 columns, present, imperfect, and preterito, but I wrote the verb. So a check mark wasn't enough. I had to write the verb to see the ending under the appropriate column. That seemed to give me a turbo.
Okay.
That doesn't seem like you'd have enough time.
No.
Oh, no.
Oh no, when you stop the video all the time, there's plenty of time. There's nothing but time in a pandemic.
You know what I may do for you? I may create a little spreadsheet where I do like that transition thing, and I'll have a space for you to write that in. So it'll be what they call a scaffolded note-taking system. So that you can do more of this. I mean, if you liked, if you thought that was helpful. To be looking at, or we're switching from present to past.
Yeah. Kind of along the same lines when we did the assignment and how you explained a couple weeks ago, kind of figure out what you're going to say and then start with the verb and then work backwards. That is helpful because then I have to kind of figure out what I'm going to say, but then not do every word. And then use the conjugation that's, I think, is appropriate. So it's kind
of like taking notes, and then you speak from the notes.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to translate word for word, which gets you into trouble almost every time, sadly. Well, it often does. And these are things that basically I kind of had to learn over years, because I remember I actually looked at an old college book I had. Oh my gosh, it was my first real literature book in college. And how many things I wrote in the margins. Oh my gosh. There were pencil marks everywhere of words I did not know. But I was trying to go word for word for word. That like eats up your whole life. You really have to go for the gist of the meaning first. And with a lot of these videos, what you want to do is you want to listen to the whole thing first. And sometimes just let it roll and not try to think too hard. Let it roll. And then go over and listen a second time and start to just kind of do that checklist thing of switching from present to past. Okay. I will probably develop a little spreadsheet so that you can do that at some other point, kind of scaffolding that, so that you can quickly take notes and move on and then come back and look at it a second time. But the video about, which I think I had you watch, about how to listen actively, talks about how when you listen to people talk, you almost, it will take you really about 5 to 10 minutes of people just talking before your brain starts to click in. It takes about that long. And if you hit that between the 5 and 10 minute mark, and if you really feel like I am missing 80% of what somebody is saying, you stop them and tell them, you know, I'm kind of a beginner. Would you slow down your speech? I mean, this is if you're in live conversation. With a video, it's not a problem because you can back it up and listen to it again. But it is very normal if you think, wow, I was like 2 sentences on until I kind of caught what the heck was going on. This is normal. And it's a thing that you just have to do over and over and over again to get your ear trained to that sort of thing. Okay, Ming. I wanted to know how that had gone.
I'm curious. I tried to listen to at least 7-10 minutes of it first. And then I went back and did the checking mark things, you know. But when I first listened to it, just listened, I felt like I was hearing more past. But then when I actually tried to write it down, I ended up having more present tense. Did you other people feel?
Ah.
Yeah, we had a lot of present, and I was surprised too. Not
That
a whole lot of it
surprised me.
perfect.
Because I think
Right,
maybe I was
right.
listening for
Yeah,
the
I think there was more preterite than imperfect, but after a
Yes.
while, I kind of didn't see the present, and I was just trying to concentrate between the other two.
There
I
was
don't know.
more preterite than imperfect. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good observation. Yes, and I will gradually, and especially for next session, not really what we've got one more class till session's done, but for next session, we'll do a little more of these as homework assignments and they'll be like little storytelling segments. So, and it's good just for your ear, to train your ear. Okay, fantastico. I would like to start with going into our small group work about talking about what you used to do. Okay, what you used to do, kind of a Christmas themed thing, what you used to do as a kid. And this is going to be largely imperfecto because what you used to do is like what you did every Christmas or you did a lot of the time, and, you know, repeated actions. A lot of it will be imperfecto. So, you know, any kind of cheat sheet that you have to do that, you should make sure you get it ready, pull it up, get it set. It's not to say that you cannot use pretérito, but if you're talking about what you used to do, most of those are going to be recurring things, okay? Things that you did multiple times over a number of years, and you're really vague on like how many times I do this. I don't know, just always did it, right? So it'll be talking about habits, right? Hábitos. So, mi ejemplo, el ejemplo que tengo yo, ¿sí? Es de niña, antes de la Navidad, iba con mi papá o con mis amigas a un pequeño lago. Yo patinaba por horas y horas en el hielo y a veces nevaba mientras patinábamos. It would snow while we were skating. ¿Sí? Después nos sentábamos en el café cerca del lago y tomábamos chocolate caliente. Hoy en día, nowadays, hoy en día, porque vivo en Arizona, no hay hielo, there's no ice, no hay hielo, y ya no patino. I no longer skate. Ya no patino, claro. Bien. Sí, ahora camino en las montañas. So you might want to end up with what you do now instead, switch to the present. But you can set it up any way you like. What I would like you to do is kind of tomar apuntes. I would like you to kind of jot down just a couple of notes when I set you up with your partners. I would like you, when your partner is done speaking about what they used to do, I would like at least one of you in the group, because I'm going to try to divide you into threes as much as possible. I would like one of you, when your partner finishes their little story, to figure out one question to ask about their story. Figure out a question to ask. Okay, so my story about skating at the frozen lake and drinking hot chocolate. Somebody might ask, I keep it simple, ¿Dónde hacías eso? Where did you used to do that? ¿Dónde hacías eso? Where did you do that? And I would have to answer, because hacías, did you used to do, right? Or maybe ¿Dónde patinabas? Where did you used to skate? And I would have to answer, lo hacía en Michigan. I did it in Michigan. Or you can get more specific, lo que sea, whatever. Or who did you do it with? Or if it was an activity that cost some kind of money, what was it, a free thing or did it cost you money, right? Or maybe what kind of clothing did you have to wear? If you went someplace where you were bundled up. Que llevabas, what did you use to wear? Que llevabas, what did you wear? So I want you to maybe think of a question to ask your partner. Now, I think this is going to take some time. I'm thinking probably a good 10 minutes, really, if I split you up into threes and have you pause to ask a question. ¿Qué opinan ustedes? What do you guys think? ¿Sí o no? 10 minutos?
Hey.
And I will make sure I pop in to each group once, just to see if you have a question. When you give your little spiel, one thing I want to tell you, if you are using some kind of special vocabulary word, you might want to, before you start, say, oh, here are a couple special nouns I'm using, just so you know what they mean. So if I thought, oh, maybe my people don't know hielo, ice, hielo. I'll say, oh, I'm going to use the word hielo. That means ice. Because some of you could have something that's super, special, specialized. Lo que sea, whatever it may be. Vale. Bueno? Good? Okay. I want you to go off and do that. Have some fun with that. I will come in and check on you guys. I'm going to see how many people. I think if we do 3 groups, yeah, that's going to be split up really nicely. And I am going to try to pop in. So when I pop in, it kind of ignore me unless you have a question. I'm just there to kind of listen and see if you've got a question on the surface. ¿Está bien? Okay, so remember to hit the join button when I hit that button, el botón. Aquí vamos, here we go. I'm going to give you time to get started before I pop in.
See,
Hello.
and then it was, you want me to go on for one more?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Then it was, nuestro árbol era decorado con grandes luces de muchos colores diferentes. And then muchos, oh, this I should have explained, adornos, which is ornaments.
Okay.
And this is even worse, espumillon de plata, silver tinsel.
Oh, I remember tinsel. Oh,
Ooh, tinsel. No,
long time.
yo no lo sé. I don't even know that word.
Espumillon.
Okay.
Okay.
And what do you do now?
Oh, now, well, ahora, mi esposo y yo tenemos un árbol de Navidad artificial.
See?
Este árbol no tiene fragancia.
Ah.
Es decorado con pequeños luces blancas.
Oh,
Susana, ¿de qué tamaño, de qué tamaño era tu viejo árbol de Navidad? ¿De qué tamaño?
How high was the, no, yeah.
Cuando eras niña, when you were a kid.
Siete.
Yes. Yes.
¿Pies? ¿Feet?
Mhm.
7 pies. El árbol de mi tía, siempre íbamos a la casa de mi tía a la noche de Navidad. Entonces, ella siempre tenía un árbol enorme de 7 o a veces 8 pies. Era enorme. Y cortaban, sus hijos cortaban el árbol en el bosque, in the forest.
oh.
Cortaban el árbol, ¿sí? Y transportaron, llevaban el árbol encima del carro, ¿sí? A su casa. Era un proyecto increíble. Increíble.
Mi hija, the forest, let's see, for $5 you can buy a permit and go cut down a tree. In the forest in Oregon.
Aquí sí
$5,
se
they
puede
get
al norte, ¿no?
huge trees.
In Flagstaff.
Okay. Voy a irme. I'm going to go and check another group here.
Adiós.
Hola.
Yo no golf anymore.
Oh,
Pero can't hear.
Gracias. Ya no is not anymore.
Oh,
The
John.
anymore is built into that. Ya no juego. Ya no juego al golf.
Oh, that's right, because in present tense it's Juego.
Ya no juego al golf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo no juego al golf tampoco. Yo no juego al golf porque no tengo ninguna paciencia.
Sí.
Cero, nada de paciencia. Y cuando solamente 2 veces, las 2 veces que yo jugué al golf con unos amigos, dije palabrotas, I was cursing. No tengo paciencia con el golf, porque es una pelota pequeñita, y tengo que golpear una pequeña de este tamaño con un palo. No puedo hacerlo. Hay que ser una persona con mucha paciencia para jugar al golf.
Mhm.
en mi opinión. Y
Too
tener
many-
mucha confianza en golpear, en pegar la pelota a la pelota.
Tanto tiempo, is that too much time? Would you say that?
Tanto es so much.
Oh,
Demasiado tiempo, too much time.
Ah,
Demasiado.
para mí.
Tarda mucho tiempo jugar al
Sí.
golf, ¿no?
Sí, 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 sí.
Es
Demasiado. Para mí.
casi toda la tarde o toda la mañana.
Sí.
Es normal, ¿no?
All right,
Es
Donna,
normal.
I think you need to.
Tengo muchos amigos que juegan al golf, pero soy terrible. Okay, me voy. I'll go. I'm going to check on the next group.
Okay, adios.
Hasta luego.
Adiós.
No,
Negro.
Ah,
Okay.
mi papá had caballo blackie as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, ¿tenían tus familias o sus familias caballos?
sí,
Sí.
sí, de niño.
Yeah.
¡Qué divertido!
Dos.
¡Ah! ¡Dos!
Sí, dos.
¿Fueron o eran animales muy tranquilos o no?
Uno, pero otro no.
Un caballo diablo.
Un diablo muy animado, muy fuerte, ¿no?
Charlie Daniels wrote a song called Caballo Diablo.
Oh, sí. Tengo que
Sí.
buscar esa canción. Me imagino que está en YouTube, en algún lugar, ¿no?
Yeah.
So, Marilyn, how would I cheated a little bit. They said, asked me what this name of what my horses were. And one was Lucky. The other one, I said black, negro, but it was really ebony. How do you say ebony in Spanish?
Tengo que buscar. Lucky Afortunado. Afortunado was probably what you would use for lucky. Ebony. Tengo que buscar un momentito. Ébano. Ébano.
Okay.
O negro.
Ah,
Ébano o negro. Ébano o negro. Ébano, con acento, E with an accent. B-A-N-O. Ébano. Ébano. ¿Necesitan unos minutos más? You need a few more minutes to finish up? Or did
Sí.
everybody?
We
Sí,
did one
okay.
sentence.
Sí,
we all did one sentence.
okay. 3 minutos o no? ¿O más?
Más, 5.
Más 5, okay. 5 más. 5 más. Continúen. Continue. Keep going.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll go cortar. I'm going to use the verb cortar, which is to cut.
Cut. Okay.
Yeah. De niño, mi familia iba a las montañas en la nieve y cortaba un árbol de Navidad.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
qué tradición preciosa. Me gusta.
Hoy
Sí.
tengo un árbol falso.
¿Y a dónde iban? ¿A un bosque dónde? ¿En el norte o aquí en Arizona?
Norte.
Okay,
Montaña, Wyoming,
Uh,
Idaho,
uh,
Dakota del Sur.
en oeste. Ok. Qué fantástico.
Mucho la nieve. Mucho nieve.
Sí.
Yeah,
Mucha nieve, hay mucha nieve, sí.
mucha.
Este año tengo un árbol de Navidad artificial, claro, de ese tamaño, sí, 2 pies, nada más. Porque a mis gatos
Mm.
Ah,
les gusta subir el árbol. Y a un gato, a solamente un gato, le gusta morder
ah,
las ramas, morder las ramas. Entonces, sí, come un poquito y vomita por todas partes. Es un horror. It is a horror show. Es un horror. Entonces el arbolito está muy arriba en un estante cerca del techo y no puede llegar a ninguna parte. El pobre diablo. Ok, voy a salir. I'm going to leave. Unos minutos más, couple more minutes to finish up, ¿sí o no?
sí, sí.
Ok, vale. Me voy. Bien. Bueno, muy bien. ¿Hay algo que ustedes quieren compartir con todo el grupo? Is there anything you want to share with the whole group? ¿Sí o no?
How would you say, who did you do that with? Con
Ah,
or quién
¿con
hacías?
quién? ¿Con
Con-
quién
Okay.
¿Con quién hacías eso? ¿Con quién hacías eso? With whom did you, yeah, it sounds really proper, doesn't it? ¿Con quién?
Yeah.
Whom. ¿Con quién hacías eso? And you know, you could even start with, ¿hacías eso con quién?
Mm.
You know, you did that, oh, with whom? Yeah, yeah. So
But
you
it's
can
called-
flip that around, but you know, properly somebody would come to them and just say, ¿con quién? ¿Con quién hacías eso? Who did you do that with?
Mhm.
Eso es. Buena pregunta, Juanita. ¿Hay otras preguntas o no?
I had a question on mine when I was trying to say that we used to decorate, you know, on Christmas Eve, but now we decorate at the beginning of December. What's the correct way to say beginning? Because when I tried to look it up, they said principios. Is that-
Principio, al principio
Okay,
del mes de diciembre o al principio de diciembre.
same, but-
Principio, y voy a escribir la palabra aquí. Principio, looks like prince, but it's not. Principio means the beginning.
beginning. It doesn't mean the first necessarily.
No, you could say el primero de diciembre. You know, if you really mean the first of December, el primero de diciembre.
I meant the beginning. And I
Sí.
just looked it up. I was expecting to see some word like with the start, you know, like empezar, you know, some
Oh,
derivation.
like empezar o comenzar. Okay, you could theoretically say el comienzo. You could put an el in front of
Oh, okay.
that. Voy un momentito. El comienzo. El comienzo, the start.
Mhm.
You could, but the start is el principio. Now, Patricia, you bring up a good point. Sometimes you don't know the exact word. So never be afraid to do that. You know, you run around the end. Never be afraid to just plug in a word you know
Okay.
that there won't necessarily be just one word all the time that conveys that. And you may not know that, you know, comienzo could become a noun, but el principio, the beginning.
Yeah. When I looked it up, that's what it said. And I thought,
Al
oh, I
principio.
didn't know that. That wasn't what I was starting to put down. So
Al principio. But now let's say you didn't have that word to look up. A way to do a runaround, but get the idea across would be to say the first of the month, because that conveys the same idea. But if you can't look it up,
right.
it's good enough to, you know, get the idea across. El primero de diciembre, the first of December. Well, that's the first. O la primera semana de diciembre, la primera semana de diciembre. There are workarounds you can do if you don't know that special word, and never be afraid to use that because people will understand you.
Okay.
Vale, muy bien. Okay, más preguntas.
If I wanted to say, we still do it, and I said, lo hacemos todavía, is that the
Ex-
right word order?
Exacto. O todavía lo hacemos. Lo hacemos todavía. We do it still. Todavía lo hacemos igual.
Either way. Okay.
Or hoy en día. Another way to say nowadays. You know, way to say nowadays. Hoy en día. Hoy en día means nowadays.
Okay.
Today and day, hoy en día, nowadays. Or if you want to say currently, meaning right now, it won't sound anything like current. If you want to say currently, in the present time. Oh, I'm missing a letter. Actualmente. Actualmente does not mean actually, ever. Actualmente, actual. El tiempo actual means the current time. So actual means current. So it's a false cognate.
Hmm.
So if you turn it into actualmente, it means currently or at this time. You know, we're doing something. So there are a lot of runarounds you can do.
I have a question about the mente words. So when you want to like put an ly on something, you use mente, but sometimes you have actualmente, and sometimes you just have actualmente.
Buena pregunta,
You know,
buena
if you
pregunta.
stick that A in there.
Okay. Rápidamente has an a because adverbs are based on adjectives. So, or at least the adjectives that use mente. So rápidamente takes rápido, it flips the O at the end to an A. An adjective that ends in an O sound will flip to the A sound before you add on the mente. So rápidamente, lentamente, sí, contentamente, en sí, cuidadosamente, carefully, cuidadosamente. Curiosamente, curiously, curiosamente. Okay, so anything that ends in an O swaps it out for an A before you tag on the mente. If it doesn't end in O, you just slap on the mente. So,
We learned
originalmente, anteriormente, beforehand, you know, like before we used to do something. Bien, por ejemplo, aquí, fácilmente. So if it doesn't end in an O, you just slap on the mente.
Are there words that would make sense to have an ing on the end in English that you can't do for a Spanish verb?
ING
Yeah.
as opposed to LY?
I mean, excuse me, ly.
Okay, so rephrase your question because I was hung up on the ING part.
Okay, yeah, well, I don't blame you. You got a lot of tolerance.
My
God.
brain works kind of slowly sometimes, Fred. A veces estoy muy torpe. Sometimes I'm really clumsy.
You're very kind. If the word in English made sense to put an ly on it, are there some Spanish words that you cannot put an ly on?
Ooh, cannot.
Yeah.
Oh, no words?
Sí, claro. Yeah, that will happen. Okay, por ejemplo, that word I gave you, cuidadosamente, carefully. Quite often, not all the time, but quite often, people will actually use just con cuidado as a two-word phrase.
care.
Con cuidado. Because they feel like saying that way.
Sounds
Just like we switch out different words. Like you may ask, actualmente means currently, at the present time, right? So how do you say actually?
I don't know.
Yeah. So the way you would really express actually would be, well, there are different ways you can do it. You can say de verdad, of truth.
Okay.
Por ejemplo, de verdad, ya no pongo un árbol de Navidad muy grande. Actually, I don't put up a big tree. Gatito. Cállate. Okay. De verdad. Or you could use realmente to mean actually. But you would never use actualmente to say actually. It's just one of those false cognates. And that will happen from time to time. Easily, you could say fácilmente, or you could like lengthen it out into a longer prepositional phrase. You know, there are certain things that sometimes don't go into an ly, but it's kind of sporadic. And you know, the con cuidado as opposed to cuidadosamente is a good example, because a lot of people just use con cuidado to say do something carefully. You do it
It's
with
probably
care.
easier to say that.
Yeah, you know, it's it kind of depends on the turn of phrase. People will flip things around as they feel like. Are there others? There are others. I would have to think for a while to think of an example. Like, if you want to say stupidly, he didn't think about that. It probably wouldn't say estúpidamente. You know, they'd probably say, porque no es muy listo, because he's not so sharp. Porque ella no es tan lista, because she's not very, you know, not the sharpest in the world. Or hacía algo de una manera muy estúpida. So it kind of, you know, it kind of depends on the phrase. There's not a general blanket rule I can give you on that, but there are times when they will not necessarily use an ly. That might happen.
Doesn't listo mean something else too?
Listo can mean ready.
Ready or clever?
Ready.
¿Estás listo? ¿Estás listo?
Yeah.
¿Están ustedes listos? Are you guys ready? When I use it with estar, because then it's a temporary state. You know, you're ready or you're not, and that is a condition that can flip-flop. But if I use it with ser, él es muy listo. Wow, he is clever. He is sharp. He is clever.
Okay.
He's quick. Es muy listo. Quick on the draw. You know, somebody who can just do it like that because they're just sharp. Yeah, so when you use listo, it'll change in meaning. With estar, it means ready, in a state that you're about to do something, right? Or it will mean that you are very smart. Okay. Buena pregunta. ¿Hay más observaciones o tienen ustedes más preguntas de cualquier cosa? Anything at all?
That was a good exercise.
No? Bien.
It was fun.
Magnífico. I'm going to get ahead of the ball here. I'm going to give you what the assignment will be for next week. Y tengo que leer esto. Es una idea relacionada. It's a related idea. Pero ustedes no van a hablar en el pasado. You guys are not going to talk in the past. Van a hablar en el presente. You're going to speak in the present. You're going to talk about prep for the holiday. Prep for the holiday. But I'm going to show you the screen, and I will share this screen with you. ¿Dónde está? Ay, Dios mío. ¿A dónde fue? Where'd it go? Aquí. Aquí. Okay. I will send you a copy of this screen. And actually, you probably don't want to use the querer part of it. Probably not. We're going to talk about obligations. What you have to do. What you have to do. Okay? Because the videos you're going to watch are going to kind of, well, one of the videos at least will lend themselves. One of the videos is going to be about traditions. Traditional things that people do. So you're going to need to talk about obligations, what you have to do. Because you're going to talk about what you typically do to get ready for the holidays. And there are different ways we can use tener que to say you have to do something. We can use hay que to make it less personal. Tener que is very personal. Tengo que hornear. I have to bake. Tengo que limpiar la casa. I have to clean the house. Tenemos que ayudar con el árbol de Navidad. We have to help. So tener que is very personal. I have to, we have to, you have to, if I'm giving you a job, right? Hay que also indicates obligation, but on a less personal level, because I does not talk about anybody like yo or tú or nosotros. Hay que just says one must. So it's like you have to, in the English idea of, well, you have to, meaning any old person has to do it. You in a very generic sense. Hay que is you have to in a completely generic way. Not you, my kid, have to do that, or you, my spouse, have to do that. Not personalized. Hay que, you have to, as in any old person has to. Hay que. Técnicamente, en un sentido muy técnico, hay que es muy impersonal. Hay que quiere decir, it means one must. Hay que. Pero con infinitivo. So tener que, we need that little word que, tener que, y añadimos el infinitivo, and we add the infinitive. Tengo que manejar, hay que resolver, okay? We always use an infinitive tacked on to the end, right? Tengo que and hay que, they both indicate obligation, but one a much more personal level, one a much more general, impersonal level. And we also have another way to indicate obligation with the verb deber, which is should or ought to, or kind of, we might use it as must, okay? Deber has a couple of meanings. Deber can also mean to owe, like money, or to owe a favor. But when we pair it up with an infinitive, infinitivo, it means that you should. And again, it's a little more personal than hay que, because deber we conjugate to tell who should, who ought to do something, okay? But notice we don't need that little word que here. It'll just be deber infinitivo. So, un ejemplo. If I want to talk about ingredients I have to buy to bake Christmas cookies, I could express that as tengo que comprar y la lista. Mantequilla, harina, azúcar. Tengo que comprar los ingredientes. I could say, hay que comprar los ingredientes. One has to buy the ingredients, meaning any old person who did this would have to do it. I might choose to express it as debo comprar, but debo comprar will be those two verbs right next to each other, no word que. Bien? ¿Entienden? Okay. So I will send you this set of slides, and I show you examples. You can kind of ignore 7 and up. 7 and up goes into querer. If you want to review querer, you can certainly do that. You don't have to, that's not really part of the assignment, but you'll get that all pushed out in the email. So what are you going to do with this? You're going to talk about what you have to do or what one must do to do some kind of special activity before the holidays. You might talk about hornear, to bake, cocinar, to cook, envolver, wrap. You might want to talk about what to do to wrap a gift. You might want to talk about enviar o escribir tarjetas de Navidad, writing Christmas cards. You might want to talk about hanging lights. You might want to talk about putting up a tree. You might want to talk about going out shopping and how that is different. You might want to talk about online shopping and stuff you got to do online shopping, which isn't the same really as, yeah. You might talk about where you hide your gifts. You may talk about anything. Something that you typically do during the holiday. It might be your favorite recipe. What do you do to prep your favorite recipe? What do you do? What are the cooking steps for your favorite recipe? Lo que sea, whatever it may be. Be prepared. Once you give your little presentation, your partners in the group may have a question for you about that process. Okay? So, eso. ¿Está bien claro? Is it pretty clear what you need to do for them? Okay, it's kind of a fun assignment. It's a very holiday assignment. What I'm going to pair that with for your homework, that's going to be your prep part. The watching part is we're going to take a little break from Destinos until we come back in enero. I'm going to give you a video that talks about Christmas traditions in Mexico. Christmas and traditions in Mexico are different from the ones in Spain, different from some other ones in Latin America. They're going to show you what it's like to do posadas, but it's a very low-level, small family group of posadas, and we'll explain what the posadas are before we leave for tonight. But
any tamale recipes?
and one is going to be a recipe. Key.
All right.
Hey, listo eres. Wow, how smart you are. The second video is going to be mostly in English, but he's going to talk about 2 specific recipes specific to Mexico. One is tamales. Yeah, one is ponche. Ponche sounds like punch. It is a punch. Ponche would be really difficult for us to make because actually they use some tropical type fruits that would be really specialized. If you went to a place in like Food City, I bet you could buy most of the things for ponche and maybe substitute some other things. But ponche is kind of a fun thing. And ponche is something that they serve all over the place in Mexico. Sí, se sirve en Mexico durante la temporada navideña, during Christmas season. Ponche is a big, big deal. You know, there are different holiday drinks, but ponche is kind of a universal that everybody does. And tamales are very universal. And the fun thing about this tamales thing is that he's actually going to show what different kinds of tamales look like. Because, you know, we think of tamales, or at least I think most people think of tamales as something with meat and veggies, and it is. But, you know, one of my friends that I used to celebrate with a few Christmases when we worked together, her family always did fruit tamales for Christmas. Fruit tamales were just a big thing in her family. And I had never had, oddly enough, I had never had a fruit tamale. I was like, you're serious? You do tamales with fruit, con fruta? Yes, so that is a thing. So he's going to show you what they look like when they're unwrapped. But the tamale thing is a big deal, and it's like a whole day process, you know, if you do it by hand. And the process of actually mixing the dough for tamales is one of those, yeah, wash your hands before you do that, because we're talking like actual skin contact for a lot of the process. So anyway, it's kind of fun too. see that being done. So those will be the two videos to watch. One kind of an evening tradition kind of thing, and one strictly food kind of thing. Bien? Okay. So, okay, before we leave to go out to review parts of the video, because we are going to do that. I didn't want to start that without you, Federico. We're going to take that part last, our Destinos part last. The big tradition, well, there are two things I'll talk about, just a little bit, un poquito. Las posadas. Las posadas, and I put it down in the chat box. A posada is an inn, I-N-N. Las posadas is a big tradition in Mexico. And what you're going to see on the video is actually a much more family-oriented kind of posadas. Usually it's done in a small town, and it's done with a whole neighborhood, or, you know, if you're in a very small town, a whole town. And the posadas are really done for 9 nights before Christmas. It's the run up to Christmas. And you do the same procession every night. It is a reenactment of Mary and Joseph going from inn to inn looking for lodging before she gives birth to the baby Jesus. So it's a reenactment of that. And they have people dress up. You know, you're not going to see that part of it. I had a great video, but I can't show it because of copyright things. I can't put it on the YouTube because of the copyright things. And people dress up in the roles, and they go from door to door asking. And there's a traditional song you sing. So the song you're going to hear them sing is the song that people sing for that. And you know, they ask for lodging, and you get turned down, and you get turned down, and you get turned down. And the last house you go to for that evening, they'll welcome you in, and you have a party. So it's 9 nights of parties.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a nice deal. Food and drink. And so anyway, it is just this reenactment. And I think one thing I had read said that it symbolizes the 9 months of pregnancy that Mary went through. That's why it's 9 nights. But who knows if that's, I don't know if that's an urban legend or if that's really is the truth. Unlike in the United States, for us, quite often, Christmas Day is the bigger part as opposed to Christmas Eve. That might vary depending on your family background. With Mexican families, absolutely, Christmas Eve is a much bigger deal than Christmas Day. Christmas Eve is the big pinnacle day. Everything builds to Christmas Eve, which is called Noche Buena. Noche Buena, good night. La Noche Buena is Christmas Eve. And that is the big point of celebration. Christmas Day is kind of like a just chill and eat leftovers day, quite honestly. All the food prep is done for Noche Buena, all of it. Nobody cooks on Christmas Day. People chill and eat whatever's left over because there's a lot left over. And the other thing that is often quite different is that the celebrations when you have family, they are really, it's not always a lot of family friends. It's family. It's family, and it's your extended family. It's not just your family and your kids. It's your family, your brothers and sisters, their kids. It's everybody. It tends to be a much bigger family celebration. And it goes on for hours and horas y horas y horas. Noche Buena, Christmas Eve is hours long. People generally will go to midnight mass, and then they'll come back, and there is still eating after you're done with that. So, para que sepan, just so you know. It's not usually a Christmas Day thing. The emphasis is really on Christmas Eve. which is what you will see. But you're going to see it in a much more, a much smaller family gathering in this particular case. So, okay. Bien. Vamos a ver. Bum, 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 bum. And of course, traditions kind of vary a lot from country to country, as they often do. In Spain, it is still Christmas Eve as well as the bigger celebration. That is generally true. In terms of little kids celebrating, you know, generally baby Jesus brings your gifts, but you know, depending on how much bleed over there is, sometimes they do the Papa Noel. You know, Papa Noel is Santa Claus. So sometimes they do a little bit of that. But kids also get gifts for Epiphany, for Three Kings Day in January as well. So it's kind of a, you know, rock'em sock'em, double-edged sword. You get lots and lots of gifts as a kid. It's a great thing. Okay, vamos a ver. We're going to take a look at Destinos. So we're going to do the walkthrough like we did, and I'm going to pause, and we're going to go back to that thing of kind of try to use some past tense to say what people did. So I'm going to try to pause at some logical moments here. And I need to get both my share screen set up and to make the screen big. So otherwise we're going to have una pantalla chiquitita. We're going to have a teeny tiny screen. Okay, a ver. And we're going to roll through all of this. Oh, wait, 20. Was it 20? 20? Or 19?
Sí,
20.
20.
20.
20, okay. A ver. Oh, sí. Los familiares, los parientes. Yeah. Primero conoce a la familia de Ángela. Yeah, we're going to go through meeting the family, which is uncomfortable or not. Well, there are parts of that are a bit uncomfortable. Ooh,
Olga's a bitch.
See, I'm trying to, okay, Aki, I wanted to skip all the preliminary stuff. Too many spoilers. So let me pause and ask you guys some questions. Let's see how much past of some kind you can throw out here and there. When I ask you a question, I'm going to cue you with the tense I want you to answer with. So if I cue you with imperfecto in the question, that means I want you to answer with an imperfecto. And you might answer with just the, you know, the answer, but try to work in a couple of words.
En el episodio previo, Raquel viaja a San Juan, Puerto Rico.
¿Pueden oír? Can you hear that, or is it too soft?
Pretty soft.
Okay. Estoy de acuerdo. I agree. You know, with YouTube, you just never know if you're going to go deaf from the blast or if it's going to be so soft that you're like, I have no clue what these people are saying. Okay, we're going to err on the side of
Rico. Gracias a un marinero argentino,
mejor, better?
tiene la dirección de
No?
la casa de Ángel Castillo.
Más fuerte, louder, yeah? Wow,
Sí.
how can they possibly set up this badly, but they do. If I had this set this loud when I did my family Zoom today, I would have made everyone deaf. But, you know, look at that. Good Lord. Okay, well, Brave New World. Okay.
Estoy buscando la calle del Sol número 4. La calle del Sol es esa que está ahí al frente. El número 4 es a la derecha. ¿A la derecha? Exacto. Gracias. De nada.
Una vecina le da a Raquel la triste noticia de que Ángel y su esposa María Luisa ya han muerto.
Ya han muerto, they have died. There you see that present perfect. Ya han muerto. Ya se murieron. Ya se murieron. They already died. Ya, already. Ya se murieron. They already died. Okay, instead of ya han muerto. Okay. Ah,
En el cementerio, Raquel conoce a esta mujer, Ángela Castillo, hija de Ángel Castillo.
y aquí es Raquel conocía a Ángela en el cementerio. Raquel, Raquel conoció. She met. Pretérito porque es un evento, ¿sí? She met her, ¿ok? Conoció a Ángela en el cementerio, o cementerio.
Raquel le dice que tiene unos familiares en México.
No lo puedo creer. Tengo un abuelo que vive en México.
Más tarde, Ángela habla con sus parientes por teléfono. Quieren conocer a Raquel. En una hora llegan.
Ok, y los parientes de Ángela, la hija de Ángel, ¿sí? Querían conocer a Raquel. Los tíos querían conocer a Raquel primero, ¿verdad? Ok, vale.
¿Quién es? Ah, es mi hermano, Roberto.
¿Cómo se llamaba? ¿Cómo se llamaba el hermano de Ángela?
Se llamaba Roberto.
Se llamaba Roberto. Uy, es muy guapo, ¿no? Qué chico tan guapo. Muy joven, muy guapo. Relaciones estrechas. Estrecha es narrow. Una calle estrecha, narrow street. Pero aquí relaciones estrechas is like saying tight relationships. Yeah. Sometimes they use the word muy unidas. Unidas is united, but that means close. But relaciones estrechas, tight relationship, yeah, that they're close.
La investigación de Raquel sobre el paradero de Ángel Castillo la trae aquí, a San Juan, capital de Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico es una de las islas...
Y bueno, van a hablar de la historia de Puerto Rico, ¿verdad? Puerto Rico, que ahora es territorio de...
llamaban los taínos.
Ah, bien, esto es importante porque...
América. Y declaró la isla parte del Imperio Español.
Entonces, Colón se llamaba Colón en español, aunque era italiano, el apellido, the last name, the surname, el apellido que usaban los españoles eran Colón. Cristóbal Colón descubrió la isla de Puerto Rico, ¿verdad? Descubrió para el Imperio Español. Ok. La isla se llamaba Borinquen. Esto es importante. This is important para que sepan, so you guys know. Para que sepan, so you might know. You may often, especially if you read any publications about Puerto Ricans in New York, where they are a substantial part of the population, Hispanic-speaking population in New York. This word borinquen, or a derivative of it, people may say, soy boricua, soy boricua. Borinquen is a word that Puerto Ricans often use to identify themselves as members of this island. I mean, they may very well use puertorriqueño, soy puertorriqueña, soy puertorriqueño, but boricua indicates Puerto Rican. And it goes back to the ancient tribes, really, that originally named the island, because, of course, the original people who lived there didn't call it Puerto Rico, right? Boricua. Also, okay, también, los tribus que vivían en Puerto Rico antes de Colón, antes de Cristóbal Colón, se llamaban los taínos. Taínos was the name of the tribal people who lived there, who were sadly, like, either intermarried or were entirely wiped out by disease. And when I say entirely, I mean like maybe 1% of the population survived. That few. So now this has become a bigger deal now, and it really isn't a thing of being politically correct, although some people misinterpret it as such. When Columbus came in, there are a lot of people who want to, you know how they want to tear down some of those Confederate statues in the United States? This has been an issue all over Latin America for centuries. Especially in the Caribbean, but in many parts of Mexico as well. Sadly, in the Caribbean in particular, not only was there a lot of slavery practiced, you know, enslaving the native populations, but unwittingly, the Europeans brought a huge number of diseases, amongst them the wonderful sarampion, measles. Measles and smallpox in particular were a true scourge. In a lot of these cases, the Europeans didn't even realize they were infecting people, but you know, you got to think after a 3-month voyage across the ocean, you're going to have sick people on that ship. And sadly, many of the crew of Columbus came and brought a host of many mortal diseases for which these indigenous people had absolutely no natural immunity. They may or may not have realized once it was too late, gee, does that sound familiar, that these people were infected. But the fact is, when Colón and all his crew left, in some cases, people came back a year later, 3 years later, and found whole cities wiped out. No lie. Maybe 5 people alive left, like, no kidding, a handful of people left alive, you know, if they came back a year later to a particular area. I think the estimates were somewhere around between 5 and 10% of the indigenous people survived the initial discovery and colonization process. It was that bad. That many people got ill. So, anyway, however, enough of the population did survive that, of course, some people did intermarry. And some of these folks as well, you know, they like to know that they're very proud of their roots in the island, going back to these people that were called Taínos, los Taínos. Okay? We're going to run out of time. Okay, vamos a hablar un poquito. ¿Quiénes llegaron a la casa de Ángela? ¿Quiénes llegaron?
La tía Olga.
La tía Olga y su esposo, el pobre esposo de tía Olga, pobre hombre, ay. Pero cuando hablamos de toda la familia, se dice los tíos. Generalmente no se dice los tíos y las tías. los tíos, todos. Los tíos llegaron a la casa de Ángela y, aquí estaban hablando. Aquí Ángela tenía una foto de su abuela que ya vive, y de su papá. Y era una foto de Ángel. Cuando tenía, no sé, 40 años, 50 años, más o menos, y de su mamá. Y aquí una tía, aquí Olga, ¿no? Ok.
Doña Carmen.
Doña Carmen es la abuela de Ángela.
Son tus padres, ¿no?
Ok. Y aquí viene, aquí, estas niñas, estas chicas son, ¿quiénes son? ¿Quiénes son estas chicas?
Primas.
Son primas de Ángela, ¿sí? Son las hijas de los tíos de Ángela. Bien, entonces ellas son las primas de Ángela. Y aquí vienen los... y aquí tienen cosas importantes, vocabulario importante, suegra y yerno. Aquí Doña Carmen era la suegra de Ángel. La suegra es la mamá de la esposa. Mother-in-law, la suegra. Father-in-law es suegro, pero mother-in-law, suegra. Doña Carmen es la suegra o era la suegra de Ángel. Y son-in-law es yerno. Yerno con Y, with that Y, yerno. Entonces, Ángel era el yerno de Doña Carmen. ¿Entienden? Sí, yerno. Ok. Y era su yerno favorito. Was her favorite son-in-law. Ok. Sabemos esto. Muy bien. Entonces, Ángela les dijo a sus tíos brevemente la historia de su abuelo don Fernando en México, ¿verdad? Ok. ¿Cómo se sentía Olga? ¿Cómo se sentía de estas noticias? How did she feel about this news? ¿Cómo se sentía Olga?
No está feliz.
No está muy feliz. No tiene mucha confianza en toda la situación, ¿verdad? No tiene confianza. Confianza. No está contenta. No estaba muy contenta con esas noticias, porque ella dice, ¿qué pasa aquí? No conozco a esa gente. No conozco a ese don Fernando. No conozco a Raquel. ¿Quién es esta mujer, Raquel? ¿Quién es ella? Entonces, ella no estaba muy contenta, muy feliz con la situación, porque no tenía confianza con gente desconocida, with unknown people, ¿verdad? Ok. Y ella dijo, ¿por qué no vino ese don Fernando? Why didn't don Fernando come himself? ¿Por qué no vino don Fernando? Why did he not come? Si don Fernando es el abuelo de Ángela, ¿por qué no vino él personalmente? Why did he not
Porque-
come?
Es muy enferma.
Porque estaba muy enfermo. No vino, he did not come, no vino personalmente porque estaba muy enfermo. Estaba en el hospital.
Y también muy viejo.
Y era muy bien, estaba enfermo, era muy viejo y vivía en México. Y Fernando no sabía que su hijo vivía en Puerto Rico. Y por eso, therefore, por eso no vino personalmente a Puerto Rico, ¿verdad? Ok. Y vamos a pausar. We're going to pause there. We'll pick that up next week. And we'll revisit that and we'll pick up with a little more of that. So be prepared for some questions. ¿Sí? ¿Está bien? Porque ya llegó la hora. We're now at about, casi 3 minutes, about 3 minutes more. So we'll revisit that. We'll talk a little bit about those Mexican traditions, and then you're going to talk about what you usually do. And I think we're going to wrap it up with that. ¿Sí? ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Está bien.
Okay. A menos que quieran más, unless you want another episode, but since you've got 2 Christmassy videos, I think that's probably es bastante. Es bastante. Okay. No quiero darles demasiado. I don't want to give you too much. Okay, está bien. But we will kind of clean up and finish up that episode as we lead in next week, la semana que viene. ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Vale, perfecto. Entonces, vamos a hablar un poquito de tradiciones navideñas en México, en Latinoamérica y también, entonces ustedes van a hablar de sus tradiciones, de sus recetas favoritas, your favorite recipes, if that's what you want to talk about, o lo que sea, whatever. Pero tradiciones de tradiciones personales de sus familias, of your families. ¿Bien?
Sí.
Ok, magnífico. Para que sepan, I'm going to leave you with one little thought. This weekend, el 12 de diciembre es importante en México, el 12 de diciembre. La temporada navideña, Christmas season, la temporada navideña empieza el 12 de diciembre. Christmas season really starts around the 12th. In Mexico. This is not an España thing. It is not even a thing necessarily with other Spanish-speaking countries. Pero in Mexico, around the 12th, you get into the festival of La Virgen de Guadalupe. The Virgin of Guadalupe. And the Christmas season starts because that is around the festival of Our Lady of Guadalupe. This is a big deal for them, and it is the kickoff for the holiday season. It is very specific to Mexico because there is a long-standing legend going back to 1549, 1545, 1500s. I'm not real good with the exact date. No sé la fecha exacta. No sé la fecha exacta. I don't know the exact date, but the reason that the Virgin of Guadalupe, who is really just, well, is essentially a celebration of Mary, the mother of Jesus. But the legend goes back to the fact that she, according to legend, appeared in person to an indigenous man, not even a mestizo man, part Mexican, or excuse me, part indigenous, part Spanish ancestry, but a full-blooded indigenous man. And she appeared not as a European woman, which would be odd anyway, because Jesus' mother really was not European. But never mind, because, you know, that would be a Spanish thing. She appeared as an indigenous, a full-blooded Indian woman to this full-blooded Indian man, and supposedly left the imprint of her image on his serape, which has been preserved in the church, in the basilica. This is a very big deal for them, because as people who are not strictly of Spanish descent, but have a great deal of Indian ancestry, you know, in their people, for the Mother of God to appear to you in your own cultural race is a huge point of pride. So for them, it goes even beyond the religious. I mean, if you ask a bunch of people who come to celebrate at the Basilica in Mexico City, which is dedicated to La Virgen de Guadalupe, because she is considered the patron saint of Mexico in the Catholic religion, if you are a member of that religion, they consider her not just a saint, but the mother of our people. And the fact that the mother of your deity would appear as an embodiment of your own race is a big deal. She's not a European woman. She's not part of those hoity-toity aristocrats. She's one of us. So culturally for them, that's a thing. Just so you can kind of know. It's something that for them is, well, it's a point of pride. So